serving and empowering nurses. This is Nurse Connect with Christine.
Hello, nurses, and wow, I'm very excited for today because, as you know, we've got this beautiful Gabriel sharing her experience as a clinical facilitator. Hey, Gabriel.
Hi, Christine. How are you?
Hey, good, good. And we wanted to honor you today, Gabriel. And I'm sure the nurses are going to be grateful for the experience that you're going to be sharing today. And to introduce our guest today, of course, she's been in the nursing industry for quite a long time now. Well seasoned clinical facilitator. I love her character because when I met her, she's always bubbly, and I'm sure the nurses or the nursing students enjoyed her company a lot. She's not very strict for those of you doing your placement. um, she's very cool and collected, right? And she always there's always something to learn from Gabriel because she's very well experienced. I've known her, and she's done a lot of nursing industry, different field of nursing as well. Okay, so she's got a lot to share, and amazing facilitator, of course. And we can't wait to hear from you, Gabriel. By the way, and so we're gonna dig deeper now into the questions that we have for you, and this is what a lot of the nurses wanted to ask you, Gabriel. And first of all, we wanted to honor your commitment to the Australian healthcare, by the way. And the nurses are very proud of clinical facilitator, of course, nursing the nursing students, because you do have a big responsibility, right, Gabriel? Especially shaping their future, and at the same time being able to share your experience, guide them to become quality nurses when they graduate and be able to practice their profession, right? And so yeah, so Gabriel, the question is, are you enjoying your work so far as a clinical facilitator, and what other areas of nursing do you currently do? We haven't caught up for a while, by the way.
I love my job as a clinical facilitator. I've been doing it for almost 4 years now, and it's one of my favourite nursing roles. And on top of doing the clinical facilitation role, because it's not a full-time role, I still work casually up at the hospital in medical units. And I think it's always really beneficial to always keep going back and doing your own clinical skills as well too, and working on the floor. So that way I always have a better understanding of where the students are at when they're actually on the floor all the time, and to know that it is a pretty tough gig. So yeah, I for over the course of the 4 years of facilitating, I've done the in-house facilitation with TAFE facilitation and with the universities as well too. So it's been great.
Correct. And you forgot to add, Gabriel, Northern Beaches Hospital.
The Northern Beaches Hospital. Yeah, if anyone listens to the podcast,
Yes.
no,
Yes.
Northern Beaches Hospital. That's where I pick up my casual shifts and did some in-house facilitation there.
That's correct. Yeah. By the way, for those of you who are listening, I've met Gabriel when when we were both casual nurses, and I told her about the clinical facilitating, right? And I'm glad you enjoy it, Gabriel. You're very well fitted for it because you're like me, love to talk. So we love to share, right? That's the main thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so Gabriel, so are you able to walk us through the steps of becoming a clinical facilitator in general?
Yeah.
Okay, what are the qualifications that you need, maybe, and
I
if you can
think,
just break it down? Yeah.
yeah, the main qualification is having your Cert 4 in training and assessment, and
That's
to make
correct.
sure that it's up to date as well too. So
Mhm.
got that qualification before I started the facilitation, and some say it can be a bit of a tricky course to do. So find your feet with it, but it is one of the most important courses to have to become a clinical facilitator. The other ways, if you're doing it through in-house facilitation through the hospital, just through having experience and being a senior nurse, and at least 5 years of being a registered nurse is the other qualification that you need to be going into facilitation. So yeah, it's not a lot. Any postgrad certificates
True, yeah.
are always highly recommended as well too.
Yes, thank you, Gabriel. That's very direct, by the way, right? Because some nurses, they have no idea. And here you are, you have that information. And if you guys are interested, it's very good to have very important to highlight experience is the key,
Mm.
okay? Because you can't really, share any or guide the nurses if you don't have any experience, right? Because when I was clinical facilitating, some nurses asked me 1 to 2 years of experience. I told them, you gotta have to have experience first, right?
Yes.
Because this is not something that you wanted to just get in because of the money, right? Because it does pay quite good because of the experience and the extra learning, right? Either the certificate for, yes, it's a must, and the post grad certificate. Okay, so that, there you go, guys. And yeah, so in terms of the shift experience, Gabriel, as you know, as a clinical facilitator, you only work morning and afternoon shift, right? So never night shift with clinical facilitator. For those of you who are wanting to get to this field, that's good news because some nurses doesn't want to do night shift, right? Like me, Gabriel, I don't want to do night shift. I ended up in an emergency department doing night shift because I don't sleep during the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, so are you able to walk us through, Gabriel,
Yeah.
your experience and the workload being a clinical facilitator and the whole shift?
Yeah, no problem. So it's all through contracts. So you do the exact same shifts that the student nurses do. So if the student nurses are on a contract or to be there for placement for 2 weeks of all AM shifts, you're doing the exact same shifts. At the same case for if they're doing PM shifts, you're doing the exact same shifts as them. Some hospitals are actually doing 12 hours as well too. Some students do 12-hour shifts. So the facility might break up their 8 hours amongst that 12-hour period, or they might do the whole 12 hours. So things will change a little bit different. But I guess just to walk you through, when I first get there, I choose a group of students that I'll go and watch clinical handover from, and that way I can better understand their patients that they might be looking after for that day. And then I'll sort of let them settle in, and I try and ensure that they're going to be doing their shift planners and speaking to their nurses about which patient loads they're going to take. So some will take 1, 2, 3, 4, depends on what year level they are. So I facilitate over the 3 year levels. And then I ensure that the students all go on an afternoon tea break or a morning tea break. And then I'll come back and round them after that. And when I'm rounding on them after that, I'm interacting with the patients that they may be working with. I'm going through documentation with the students. I'm going through their handover sheet to ensure if they've got any questions about any of their patients. And a lot of the time they do. There's some like knowledge deficits about their patients. So it's just getting them up to date to just better understand about their patients. Might do a wound dressing with them, depends on what comes up. And then I'll make sure they go on their dinner break or lunch break, and then go back and round again on them in the afternoons or towards the end of the night. So again, it's just kind of follow up on how their shift has been, ensuring that they're well supported. If they've got any issues with the current nurses that they're working with, or any difficult patients that they want to go through, or they might have a hard time, or so that's kind of just the daily routine. I mostly do PM shifts actually, and I really enjoy doing PM shifts. So they're not as they've got time in the afternoons to spend time with me and to really look over their patients. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, for those of the nurses wanting to go into this field, they think sometimes it's very easy, but it's challenging in a way that you have to look after many nurses.
Oh,
you isn't it, Gabriel?
you can have
Like,
10 students that you're looking after.
mm,
When you break it down into, an 8-hour shifts, and by the time you have your afternoon teas and dinner breaks and stuff, and then to be doing the paperwork on top of it, sometimes
mm,
you spend up to 15 minutes with every student. So you've got to really prioritize your time, and
true.
you've got to be able to work efficiently and be planning your own schedule and be
Mm-hmm.
prepared to have
Interrupted.
dinners and lunches on your own as well too. And
Mm,
so
yeah.
just super organized.
Yes, you do have to that way, Gabriel, and the character that you have to deal with, right? Um, in saying that, what's the biggest challenge that you've come across so far as a clinical facilitator?
The challenges is often when students get pushed into like AIN roles and they feel like they're just running around doing lots of tasks. For nurses,
Mm, yeah.
feel like they're quite overworked and they're not learning anything, and they find it quite difficult to say no to some nurses when they just need to really want to look through their patient's past medical history and understand it a bit. So sometimes that can be quite frustrating to work through for the students in particular. Yeah, and maybe they're not building that rapport that they'd liked throughout the shift with a particular nurse. So yeah, in that instance, I always encourage them to be aware of those nurses that they might be working with on the floor, and really step up and maybe speak to the unit manager. And it's good that they're contacting me, and we can put a few things in place. So that's probably one of the biggest challenges that I find.
I love your heart there, Gabriel, because when I asked you about challenge, you thought about the nurses, right? And so, wow, so I love that because, you could have thought of your own challenge, but you really
Oh,
do look after these nurses. So thank you so much. Keep an eye out on Gabriel if she's the not the facilitator, be able to speak out to the to
my
the university, right?
my personal challenge is probably when you come across difficult students that you kind of just headbutting. I
Yeah,
probably really difficult with students that feel overconfident in what they're doing, particularly
it's
maybe
true.
um, enrolled nurses, or any nurses that may feel like they know everything, and
Mm.
so sometimes they can be the most challenging students to work with, and really like pick their brains on where they're actually at and trying to get them to move from the position that they're at, whether it's an EN, into that RN role, and to start thinking differently. So that's probably my biggest challenge, is students that may have attitude issues and
Yes. Yeah.
not really enjoying being a student nurse. That's probably the best
Mm.
of it.
Yeah, and I think that's majority of the feedback I gather from, like not just the nurses but the facilitators as well. These students thinking that, they know know it already, right? Like what you were saying. So that's definitely a challenge. Um yeah, so and the next question, Gabriel, thank you for your heart, by the way, for serving the nursing students, right? And I'm sure you do great on the floor as well. But this is where the nurses, they ask this a lot, Gabriel. What's the pay, right? Well, what's in it for me? Majority of the time. But we just wanted to highlight that if you don't love it, if this is something that you don't love, like Gabriel loves it, but it's not always the pay. It's not always the case. We
Yeah.
just wanted to remind you. But Gabriel, how much do you pay you get paid as a clinical facilitator? You don't want to go into much detail, but I'll leave that to you.
Yeah. Look, it depends on if you're in-house facilitating or you're doing it with TAFE. Then you're more at like that C&E role. So you like that $55
Yeah.
if you're in those sort of higher roles. And when you begin to work with the university, you're getting paid at more of a senior lecturing kind of role. So you're looking at
Yeah.
$70 an hour up from there. So
True,
you
true.
have to remember that it is all casual based work as well too. So even your hourly rate when you are working with a university, for instance, is on the highest level. You don't get any of your sick leave, you don't get any holiday leave, and again, it's contract work. So it all depends on whenever the students have got placement and whether you actually get those placements. So for me and for the last few years, it's been worth it to be on a higher hourly rate. And I'm a very good saver, so it helps.
You are.
Flexibility. But again, to be working on $80 an hour or so is lovely, but it doesn't suit everybody because, it's not, you don't get that regular income. So, that's about.
Yes. And different company, thanks Gabriel, different company pays differently, right?
Definitely.
Like in Northern Beaches, because I'm casual there, I get paid 75 per hour. And if I work for Healthcare Australia, I do get 65 or 55 for Western Sydney, Australia. For some reason, I don't know why it's different, right?
Yeah.
But yes, so so that's some more awareness for our nurses in terms of the pay. For those of you who wanted to get in there, and what advice? The next question, Gabriel, the advice you can give the nurses in terms of wanting to be a clinical facilitator, if you can share your own advice.
So my own advice is you've got to know people to be able to get in. Universities don't just advertise, actually, unfortunately, sites or anywhere or seek.com about clinical facilitation positions. Some hospitals will advertise if they're in-house facilitation, but most of the time you've got to know somebody and who will let you in the game, because there is quite a lot of facilitators that work for different universities and work across various different ones. So it's sort of who you know. So I would
putting yourself out there.
so I would say you definitely have to keep talking to people who in the role, who will give you a reference or put you forward to who their manager actually is probably the only way to do it. And if you are in the hospital and you're a registered nurse on the floor and you want to get into in-house facilitation, then I would definitely say that you need to speak to your education department. They'll be the ones that will be the one employing you. So you've got to put yourself out there and find those kind of things. I mean, some positions will come up on Seek.
And this is what I love about you, Gabriel, because you always have the eye, for things that you really want to do. And so you just do it, right? And so I remember that first conversation, and I thought, oh, this person inspired me, because she just go for it. Like the savings, we were talking about savings, going back right to the pay. Remember that conversation that we have? And you do inspire me, Gabriel, and I'm sure you're inspiring a lot of nurses.
Yeah.
Because yes, it doesn't matter how much you get paid, it matters how much you saved also. Right, so I hope that's a great reminder as well for nurses, because Gabriel right here, I was sharing about my investment, but man, like Gabriel's got investments also, and I'm like, you inspired me, sis. Yeah. And one last question. Yep.
Like, oh yeah, I'm just doing a shift here, but then I'm going to go and mark a holly for papers. You get paid really well when you mark papers.
Yes, you do. For those of you, by the way, if you're a clinical facilitator, and again, you gotta know people, and you gotta have to be willing to get it, like Gabriel, and like me, I mark paper. You do get a lot marking paper. Just avoid university too much, Gabriel, because sometimes university essay, I hate that. But TAFE Queensland is good. Yeah.
But it's pretty much who you know, and how I've got a little bit of teaching at ACU is through the interview, through the facilitation, who I got it through other facilitator that works there that I just got chatting to. And then during the interview, they were like, oh, by the way, we need teachers and you qualify for that. So can you start doing some teaching in that? And then from there, it's sort of, bit of both. So you just never know. You really got to keep your eye out for everything and just take opportunities if they come. And yeah.
And I mean, they wouldn't say it to you, Gabriel, right? If they didn't see the capacity from you. So very proud of you, Gabriel. Teaching university already. So let's catch up soon, definitely. And one last question, Gabriel. What's your long-term goal as a nurse? This is just something that I always ask the nurses that I interview, because then just to give the nurses who are listening right now an insight, of what could there be the risk for them by knowing other people's experiences as well.
It's something that I think about often enough, and I used to be a community nurse for about 3 years, and I really enjoy working in the community and working with aged care. And so sometimes I think about combining education and community together. And so potentially in the long term, I might look into supporting registered nurses and AINs and ENs that in the education field, working for maybe a private company or public company in the community sector. So I feel like combining a bit of both of that, but also too, I can really still see myself working. I'd like to get my master's one day and continue working for the university, because I really do enjoy working with student nurses, and they are the next generation of nurses, and they really need fantastic teachers and fantastic support when they go out to clinical placements. So I can see myself also doing that. So future, I think I'll just continue to facilitate and keep an eye on all my options. So I just love a bit of everything.
Yes, and I can see you enjoy that, Gabriel. What you think of your opening a business soon? Maybe your own company? Not at the moment, yeah.
For you.
Yes. I do. I love looking after nurses as well. This was my job back in the Philippines, and it's just a matter of I love it, Gabriel, because like you're thinking of like learning and everything again. I'm thinking of masters as well, but because of the like business going so well, and I need my focus there, so that might not be the list for the meantime. But thank you so much, Gabriel, for sharing your experience. I did enjoy this talk with you, and I'm sure I'm gonna see you again soon. But nurses, if you can put down your comments, right, say thank you to Gabriel for all her input, the informative very informative discussion that we had today in regards to being a clinical facilitator. So again, Gabriel, we wanted to honor you. We wanted to thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, in my podcast.
Yes, it's been a pleasure to chat to you, and I hope the nurses listening to this have gotten something out of it. And feel free to message me if you need to as well too. I'm just on Instagram. Christine can send me my link, or
I will.
Yeah. Anyway,
yes.
And I've got to look after some student nurses this afternoon.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you guys, and thank you all nurses. Don't forget to subscribe and tune in again on our next podcast. Bye for now.